Hey folks, how are ya?
Hey, we are at the...
We're trying this now, by the way. We're trying this with my iPhone 4S.
Yes.
My new iPhone, by the way.
We're at the International House of Pancakes here in Fairfax, on the corner of Pickett and Blake, I believe it is.
Yes. Just want to show our face when we go back inside and eat food. You'll probably see us having food right here. You'll probably see the food more than you'll see us.
Which might be to your benefit. I don't know. This is my dinner with Andrew. Today's
a reference
podcast.
to a movie which I have no clue what that means, by the way.
Yeah, go look it up. It's My Dinner with Andre. It stars Wallace Shawn from The Princess Bride. And
I have no clue who Wallace Shawn is.
He was Vizzini in The Princess Bride.
I have no clue who Vizzini is.
You've never seen The Princess Bride?
I've never seen The Princess Bride.
Inconceivable.
No, this is why I sleep 3 hours a day. I don't have time to watch movies. So, but anyway, guys, thank you for joining us after a great week 2 of action here. I'm here with Andy Goss, the voice of DCHL.
Yeah, we got a lot of positive feedback from the first podcast, so we're going to do it again.
Yeah, why not? And since we're here having a dinner at what time is it, Andy?
It looks like 11:35 from where I stand.
Yeah, considering that I my day started at 10 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be 1 o'clock by the time I get home. So 13 hours or 14 hours of DCHL action.
All you have to know about this is that I fully expect him to fall asleep behind the wheel, and I'm going to have to jab the EpiPen into his shoulder in order to wake him up.
Don't worry, I won't fall asleep. I'm used to this by now. But anyway, thank you for joining us again for the Week 2 recap of, should you call it DCHL this week? DCHL this week.
Sure, why not? We'll call it anything we want. I mean,
this is our Week 2 podcast.
It's not like anybody cares what we call it, as long as we talk about the games. People just want to hear what they hear themselves. You know this.
Before we can start with the games, I want to know the fact that he ordered these. What'd you order, by the way?
I ordered a T-bone steak and eggs.
T-bone steak and eggs. And of course, I am now on this new nutrition kick, and working out again. So I'm going with the spinach omelet. And we're splitting
quesadillas, yeah. But basically what it comes down to is he's on a diet and I'm not. So,
exactly.
I mean, you can see my hands here. That's all you need to know. This is going to be the weirdest podcast visual ever.
All right, while waiting for our appetizer, let's go to the game action. A great day of action where we had, let me go back and do the quick overall recap.
Yeah, let's go.
Out of 7 games, we had 3 games that came down in the last... Yeah. 13 seconds or less.
We had 3 games where in the last 15 seconds the point distribution changed.
Absolutely.
So
let's start with game number 1. That game featured...
It was the NWO against the Evil Empire. Now, I was refereeing for that game, so I might not be the best judge of what's going on, but I will say this. The Evil Empire got off to a hot start. They were up, I think, 4-1 after 2 periods.
Correct. After the third period, they were up 4-1.
And then they just...
And the wheels came off.
The
wheels came off.
It was Mike coming back, bring his team back. Jeff was a big help as well.
And let me go back. Mike, he says Mike is Mike Johnson, the superstar player for the NWO.
Oh, they have 2 Mikes?
No, but there are a lot of Mikes in the league. People might not know who Mike Johnson is. There are a lot of new players in the league out there. Mike Johnson is the star player of NWO, and he really played hard and created success, and the team played great.
Yep.
They came back and they battled back. NWO doesn't score that many goals. Mike is their primary scorer overall, and they battled back and tied that game up 4-4. Which was unbelievable, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and then, but they won in late.
Yeah, and NW scored late, is that correct? I mean, I'm sorry, Evil Empire scored late, make it 5-4.
That's right, and at that point I thought it was over because...
I thought too.
Really, at this point, their main offense is basically Mike Johnson doing one of those Jeffy from the Family Circus little trips through the defense.
And we thought that, that Evil Empire pulled one out at 5-4, but again, with about less than 30 seconds in the game. A great offensive zone pressure by Mike Johnson and the offensive line. They battled hard. They won the battles. And Mike Johnson basically willed his way into a great pass I believe Jeff scored on.
I believe so, yeah.
Great centering pass, great individual effort by Mike, and Jeff put it in. And with about 13 seconds, less than 13 seconds left, we had a 5-5 tie. And for the second time in 2 weeks, another...
The Empire basically choked.
Well, I wouldn't go with the word choke, but I would say the fact that...
well, of course you won't. You're the commissioner. You have to be neutral.
I would say the fact that Evil Empire defense does seem a little lacking, and for the second time in 2 weeks, 2 out of 2 weeks, they gave up a very demoralizing tying goal.
Definitely demoralizing.
That cost him a point. So it has to be very disheartening for the Evil Empire, who was the preseason #1 pick to win this division,
right?
And to win and the favorite to win the cup, but looks like they have to do a better job on defense in order to make this work overall for us.
All right, now our second game, and if you are at the DCHL YouTube channel, you can find the link right about there.
By the way, he says that, but I never put that one in there. So don't look there. Just look in your emails box, okay? That would be better for you.
Right. Anyway, the second game was our first half of our doubleheader. And I want to thank John Roms, first of all, for appearing in the booth with me.
Yes, John filled in for me as the color commentator along with Andy Goss, the voice of DCHL. So we had a great start to our was supposed to be a triple header, but it ended up being a double header of U2 games in this case. As our
Quesadillas over it.
I'm okay with ketchup.
No,
I'm good. We're good.
I'm good. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. As we just got appetizers, by the way.
And now the big one out of this one is that we found that Neil for the 5-minute majors is a star. I think that's official now. He is a star in the making. And I say this because the Street Sharks outshot the majors by by a ratio of 2-1. Mm-hmm. They were in the zone all the time. Mm-hmm. But a combination of Neil doing his part and just an inability by the Sharks to finish off what they started.
Yeah, I think this game was best characterized by the fact that both teams played well, both teams fought hard.
Yep.
The Sharks had a chance to they weren't overwhelming the better team, but they had chances to get a 2 or 3 goal lead, and they could not. And that was the difference because the 5-minute majors stayed close, they stayed tight, and then
with 6 seconds left, the Sharks were called offside.
Interesting here, exactly.
And I said on commentary to John, not that John didn't believe me, mind you. John understood this, of course. But I said to him, that offside means this game's not over.
So basically, an opposite zone face-off for the 5-minute major.
Yes.
With less than 6 seconds left, they were able to win the draw. And David, the captain, got off a great shot from the deep slot point area, and he beat the goalie clean.
Yeah, and James, by the way, great face-off win. Absolutely.
James Bradley, I believe, right?
Right. Absolute pinpoint pass to David.
And
needs to be mentioned.
With less than 6 seconds left, we were tied at 2, and the game ended in a tie at 2-2. So another 2 back-to-back great games that ended in ties in the final few seconds, which is, again, something that I'm happy as a commissioner with because I want to see competitive games overall. So I'm very happy to see that. And the 5-minute major now are 1-0-1 in first place, I believe, right?
Place in their
first
division.
Place in the East Division. So we have 2 new teams in first place.
Yeah, now
other team we'll talk about later on.
We'll get there later. Now, also, in addition to that game you'll see on our YouTube channel, we'll also have an interview with Neil, who had 38 saves in that game. He was the reason that game ended in a tie. I really believe that.
All right, so we have a star goalie here, already in the makings here in DCHL.
That's right.
With Neil. And great game as well. So our first 2 games ended in ties. Game number 3.
Mm-hmm. Now, game number 3 saw the Blue Barracudas, who are standing on top of the division at this point, with a +6, going into a Funkmaster team that absolutely needed to win. And there were some great plays. I'm going to give goal of the week out of this game. It's going to go to Simon Cantor, who absolutely, on a shorthanded situation, started the third period, took the ball from, I'd say, about 2/3 deep, weaved his way forward, and let loose with a blaster, and that was really the dagger. That put the lead up to 4-1, as I recall. And I want to give Simon goal of the week honors for what was a fantastic goal, a shorthanded, unassisted goal. I don't know if you remember seeing that.
I do. It's a great goal, and he did a good job actually killing time off the clock, and then able to weave his way and get a great shot that beat Josh clean.
Oh,
Josh,
yes.
the goaltender of the Blue Barracudas, clean. And that was the demoralizing goal. I think that pretty much broke the camel's back. Yeah. And a game that, I'll be honest with you, Funk dominated. Funk was the better team. Clearly the better team.
And
they were the better team. They were a cleaner team. They played well, and they had the better chances.
Uh-huh.
And, and they deserved the win. It was a dominating game.
And they put the Blue Barracudas on tilt.
I will diverge here a little bit, but, I don't want to go too much into it because, as a commissioner, I have to be careful. But, the Blue Barracudas have a history in our league. A couple of players. I will not mention publicly, obviously, right now because we're on a podcast. But
and I will not mention them under my breath while coughing.
But let's be honest here. A couple of the players need to just play the game instead of being officials. And it's disheartening that that we have 3 officials, and no matter who officiates the game out there,
I'm good. Thank you.
And no matter who officiates the game, certain individuals in the Blue Barracudas think that they are actually better referees, and that it disappoints me.
Yes,
overall.
we're good. Can you leave that? Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, to go back to the Blue Barracudas. I mean, they need to chill out, relax, play the game because they get too involved with officiating sometimes.
Yes.
It's not the team. And I don't want to give the team a bad rap. A couple of players do that, and those players need to understand that it's getting old, and it's a recreational league. And unless they get the call their way, they always seem to complain and argue.
And they're not the only team that does this. Let's be
yeah,
clear right
they're not. But I think they have a long history. They probably have the most sustained history of doing this. And other teams do. So
that's true.
And I want to make sure they. I mean, again, I don't want to throw them in the bus because they're a good team, and there are a lot of good players on that team. But it's disappointing for me as a commissioner that we keep dealing with this issue over and over again. So anyway, to make a long story short, Barracudas lose, and they are now. Is it in third place?
Yes, they are in third right now. The Funks jumped from 5th to 2nd with that win.
Yeah, Funk and Barracudas are tied the standings, but because Funk beat the Blue Barracudas, the head-on tiebreaker, Funk are now in second place. Who's in first? Well, hang on tight. We'll get that to you a little bit later on in the podcast.
But first, that's a great segue. We go to the second game that we had taped today. This one featured the Jackson Cokes.
2 Jackson No Cokes, by the way.
Whatever.
That's what they name it. It's 2 Jackson No Cokes.
Going against the Scabs.
Yes.
Now, I want to thank Scott Fairchild for taking part in this. And for those who haven't seen it yet, there was this game was one where, I'm going to be honest, neither Scott nor I knew most of the players. So we were describing it in generic terms as possible. And the Scabs got out to a big lead. And I thought, this game, there's not much that we're going to talk about in the third period. So you're going to have a special guest star coming in during the third period.
A guest celebrity?
A guest celebrity, yes.
Was he drunk?
Probably.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Knowing him, he was probably drunk. I mean, that's usually a safe bet with him. But
and this game also featured, by the way, if you watch it on YouTube, featured some it's almost a 3-man crew sometimes.
Yeah,
With a third official, there was a third official / second color commentator, adding some lighthearted humor.
We couldn't get this guy to be quiet. I mean, that's basically what it was.
We had a good time with that game. So again, my first thought process was, who are these Scabs and what are we doing with my real Scabs?
Yeah.
Because this team is now 2-0. This team has won 1 game in 2 seasons. Am I correct?
Something like that, yeah.
1 game in I think 2 seasons, maybe 2 games in 2 seasons. I have to go back to check the standing out there. But they are now. Hold your breath. They are in the Chicago Blackhawks territory. They are undefeated without a loss so far this season.
And it helps because they've had a lot of people they've picked up. I think John Robbs was the secret to turning this team around. And then they got, they got Mike Medina, they have Francois, they have, they have players that have come in, and those players have turned it around for them.
Well, this is what I'm going to disagree with Andy here. They already had, I think, the core players were already there last season. They had some bad breaks. They were just gelling. Their players missed games. They didn't add that many talented players from the offense. Francois was a great find. He's a great player. Richard and Joe are also good players as well too. I think they had John last year for half the season, but I think with 1 season under the belt, they're all gelling better now. They're showing up now. They're making games now. I think the team was already good as it was last season, but now they're showing it more and more now. Right. So I think you have to give them credit for that. And again, they were up 4-0. They scored goals up 4-0, and looked very, very good overall. So the Scabs. Yep. Won the game, and they're now
2-0.
tied for first place.
They are 2-0 at this point.
Are they in first place with tiebreaker? I believe they are.
Yes, they are. Because
based on tiebreaker, the Scabs are in first place. Go celebrate, Todd, Charlene. And notice the fact that I want to point this out to Charlene because Charlene knows this. I keep needling her about this in the emails.
Is that what it is?
That every time that Charlene misses games, I believe the Scabs are undefeated. Or almost have like 3 wins and 1 loss. So
keep her away from the game.
Yeah, maybe we try to find Charlene a new team to play for. Not the Scabs.
Maybe.
All kidding aside, the great game by the Scabs. I'm happy to see them do well. 2 Jacks, no Coke. I want to say 2 Jacks, no Coke out there as well too. I think all 3 goals they have scored this season have come from female players.
Which is a statistical anomaly, really.
You know what? I said that before last week as well too. They've got some terrific female players. Kelly Karen filling out this season for them. Great 2-way player, more of a defensive player. But yes. Chrissy and Lucy. Lucy reminds me of a younger Sarah Kramer, the scoring diva we have at DCHL, and she had a goal today. All 3 goals came from females. Give them credit for that. They played hard. They battled back in the second, third period, and they'll be okay. But it was a good win for the Scabs. I'm sorry, you were saying something about that game as well too, Andy?
Well, I want to give full credit to Owen for the hat trick. He was our player of the game.
Okay, Owen. Forgot about that. Yes, good job, Owen.
And Francois is on his way to being the Gordie Howe of this league. He had 2 goals, 2 assists, and 2 penalties today. So.
Francois being a hockey player, ice hockey player, axe-hockey player, those guys, when they play floor hockey, they have a lot of penalties. They have to learn to adjust to our game.
And not only that, but and this is something that came up in the Blue Barracudas game, I just want to say. I mean, they had 2 players who were making their debut, Adam and Matt.
Adam actually made his debut last week.
Oh, okay.
But Matt's debut this week,
and about 4 minutes into the game, Matt gets called for a high sticking. I just want to make it clear to everybody, you have not officially been in this league until you've been called for a high sticking. That's pretty much the joke in this league. And everybody knew that it was going to happen, so there was no real surprise, no real problem with it.
So recap, the second feature game, which is a fun game to actually watch. Make sure you watch it on YouTube to get some fun commentary.
Yes.
As well to show the Scabs winning, and now they're in first place at 2-0. And now we go to the game of 5.
Yeah, Game 5. Now, this is one, once again, I'm going to have to bow out because I was busy getting my goalie gear on for Game 6. So, Suds was the one who saw the whole game. It is the Babylon Warriors and the License to Deke, if you will.
Yeah, I like the name.
So, these were two teams that were coming off of a loss in their first game and who both really needed some momentum. So, you tell me, how'd it go?
Actually, it was a pretty good game. The Warriors jumped out early, and they actually had a 3-1 lead, I believe, at the end of first period, and they actually played pretty well. You thought that the Warriors were back, and after a disappointing loss last week, and they were going to roll. But then at 3-1, something happened. Either they couldn't score anymore. I mean, I question the Warriors scoring right now because besides JP and maybe Segdog, they don't have pure scorers. And in a league like this, in a format like this at Tacoma Park, a small format, you just score goals. Bigger format, you can get away with it. So I think the smaller gym hurts the Babylon Warriors right now, and they struggle to score goals. So at 3-1, it was a situation where they either couldn't score any more goals because then Boris, Triple Deeks, Chris Winkler, who I believe had a hat trick. Chris Winkler took over. Dan played well as well too. A lot of the players that came in for other options to fill the team this season did a great job, and they dominated the rest of the game. I mean, Triple Deeks dominated second period, dominated third period, and they won going away. I think it was 6-4 if I recall correctly.
Yep, that's what I heard from you. So 6-4
there. 6-4 final score. A great win for Triple Deeks out there, and John Roms filling in last minute pinch relief goalie. For some reason, Tom couldn't make it, or there was a miscommunication, so John filled in and played his third game of the day.
He is a beast.
Yes, he is. So I want to thank John for doing that. Congratulations to Triple Deeks on a good win. And they are now tied for second place, am I correct? Or they are in second place?
They are in second, yes. They are in second, and part of the reason is that goals allowed is the
tiebreaker.
Is a tiebreaker ahead of goal difference, which is an unusual perk in this league. So they were in a position now where they had to hope the Scorpions not only lost, but lost big.
Okay, and you know what? That was game number 6. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's exactly what happened. Nice segue there.
Yeah.
The Scorpions were pretty much blown out by the Afterburners.
And it was kind of a strange game, all things considered, because you would not have expected the Scorpions to be blown out. But they did not find offense in that game. They were Scott and Jay were doing their part, but nobody else was really stepping up.
Well, I think the Scorpions were missing a lot of key players today. Mike Ortega wasn't there again. Paul, their defensive star player, wasn't there as well too. So they were missing a lot of key players overall, which we get offense from overall, so that hurt them. The Burners had their quote-unquote veteran pro scorers in Greg and CJ, veteran defender in Pat, veteran defender in Bill. You can see my point here. They really are, the Burners really are a pro team masquerading as a rec team right now. And they showed their dominance. They dominated the game completely in passing, territorially, shots on goal. As Sean and I commented briefly on our attempted...
We wanted to get this game in, but unfortunately...
The battery,
because Genius here didn't figure out which cord to bring. We would have recharged the battery, but, that just didn't happen, did it?
Anyway,
Which is probably all for the better because, nobody wants to see me in goals flopping around all over the place.
It was a blowout, and it was a blowout where it was a total domination by the Burners. And, at the end, I think there was frustration on the Scorpion side. They were losing their cool a little bit out there, so, there was a situation where there was a major penalty called on a Scorpion player. It wasn't a malicious, intentful, but it was just the dangerous play that came about, and as a result...
And what's interesting about that is because it started with a rather innocuous call, I think a high stick or something that was called about a minute before the whistle was blown. And I remember this because I was able to get off the floor.
Correct.
As the goalie.
There was a delayed penalty coming out.
Delayed penalty. And then something happened in the corner, and suddenly a minor became a major. And I don't know what the details of that are, obviously. And I don't want to speculate because I was too busy playing.
I think the player involved got lucky because it could have been a minor plus a major. The referee chose to just call a major instead.
Okay.
So I think the player got a break there. And again, it wasn't where the player was out of control. It was malicious hurt somebody, but it was a situation where the player put himself and another player in a dangerous position, and without thinking about it. And that's something that we in DCHL frown upon. Referees are told that we don't want that. And our new head referee Rob did a great job making a call there, a major penalty, and that pretty much sealed the deal. Even though
even though that's when they got their first goal. That's
the Scorpions got short a goal.
I want to give Scott credit. He had both goals for that team.
Right there.
But unfortunately, CJ Luka and Greg Parisi, each with 4, led the way in a 9-2 victory.
Correct, and as much as I have to be fair across the board here as commissioner. And
why start now?
The point is the fact that I do hop on the Blue Barracudas, but also another team that I think have certain players who have to understand directly, and they argue. You cannot argue judgment calls. You cannot argue 50-50 calls because they'll either go one way or the other. Those are calls where it can go either one way or the other, and it's whatever way it goes. The best option we see out there. So I'm getting a little tired of players arguing 50-50 calls overall. It's in the rule book, and I've told the referees to eliminate that, kick them out of the game, give them major penalties, give them points of conduct out there. And the Scorpions are one of those teams that have to control their emotions and understand this is a rec league and they complain way too much. Way too much. So
he's on his soapbox, folks. You can't see it because
I've been a commissioner of the league since the first day we opened it out there, and I know the teams very, very well. There are certain teams that have to understand that they're missing the boat here. We're trying to do here, and they're not malicious or bad, but they have to understand that this is. I expect higher from them in terms of quality play and control behavior, and it disappoints me sometimes when I don't see that. So they're a veteran team, not a new team. They've been playing for a long time. They have to do better. Bottom line. If I'm gonna throw out the Blue Barracudas as one of the teams with a couple players, I'll do the same thing with the Scorpions as well too. They deserve that same frame of mind as well too. All right, now after that game, the Burners are in tied for first place with the Scabs, but with the goals allowed, being the tiebreaker right now because they haven't played hot on head, the Scabs are currently in first place right now as we speak.
And this is one of those strange things because when these two teams play, it's going to be interesting because I'm going to tell you right now, the number of goals the Scabs scored and the number of goals the Burners have conceded is about equal. It's 9 goals for the Scabs, 8 goals conceded for the Afterburners. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of guess what's going to happen as far as the Scabs. They're probably going to get 4 or 5 goals. The question is going to be how much can the Afterburners get? Because the Scabs right now have given up 4 goals over 2 games, which is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
The Afterburners have scored 21 goals in 2 games,
correct,
which is scary.
Correct.
So that's going to be an interesting matchup when that comes about. I think is that next week?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we don't want to commit. So we'll.
I don't memorize. I mean, I do a lot of things. I don't memorize the schedule, so I don't do the schedule.
Yeah. I don't blame him either. But,
so again, a great win for the Burners. They had 2 blowout wins with Andy stepping in. And give credit to Andy. He played goal. He's now the new goalie because of injury to Scott McQuarrie. So Andy's now the new goalie for the Burners, and he had a good game. He played very, very well. Stopped 21 of 23 shots.
I did all right. I mean,
and
honestly,
he had some help, but he also, when he had Cushner, he shut the door as well too. So
honestly,
a good win for the Burners.
I think Roderick is it Chen?
Roderick Cruz.
Oh, Cruz. Okay, I don't know why I thought it was. I must have misread it. Anyway, I think he did a lot better than I did. He faced a lot more shots, and he was able to get. And he just doesn't get credit because there were so many wide open shots. And the defense really was not helping him. Again,
the Burners have what I call 2 prolific scorers. In Greg and CJ. Any goalie would face 15, 20 quality shot with those guys shooting at you. So he had to run the gauntlet today. And it was tough for him, but he played very well though in defeat for the
Scorpions. Yeah.
Now the final game of the night, and that was a barn burner. I wish we had made this a YouTube game, and also maybe had a fatty because this has been a great game to watch.
Yeah, this was a fun game, and let me just put it this way: a record for shots on goal in a period by both teams was set in the second and the third period.
Really, what was the shot on goal?
I think the record for most shots on goal in a period, both teams is now 33. There were a grand total of 84 shots taken in this game.
Wow.
And with typical defense, unfortunately, and now this is something we really should have seen coming because all credit to the Cobra Kai right now. They beat the Funk Masters in week 1, but they allowed 40 plus shots in that game. They were being held up by Ryan in that first game. Now, all credit to the Ducks, but their last game ended 7-7. So these were two teams that were a little suspect on defense. The result was that an AHL All-Star game broke out.
Yeah, there were combined
84
17 goals scored in this game. And it was back and forth, tied at 5, tied at 6, tied at 7, tied at 8. Could you believe it? Tied at 8. And again, before I tell you who won the game, I do want to go back and harp on Andy's point here. Exactly. Ryan played outstanding last week for the Cobra Kai. But the difference between Cobra Kai last week beating Funkmaster and the Ducks have a lot more scorers than Funkmasters do. And Ryan had to face Chris, and Josh, and Luke, 4 prolific scorers. And Ryan obviously is not going to be able to do that back-to-back weeks in a situation like that. So he did give up 8 goals today, at least. And the game was tied going into the last
minute
or so. And again, we had a goal that was scored with how many seconds left, Andy?
This time it was 6.8.
With 6.8 seconds left, it was Cobra Kai.
Yes, and AJ for Cobra Kai playing his first game.
His inaugural game, his first game ever in DCHL history, gets the game winner. Was it from Paul?
I believe so.
I believe it was from Paul, the Captain Paul. He put in a rebound or a shot from a pass, actually, and it was a great goal to the, I believe it was the stick side low of Sean, if I recall correctly out there. It was a great shot, and again, another game that ends with a goal in less than the last 13 seconds, and what a great win for Cobra Kai, and what a great game by our Ducks. They played very, very hard, but at the same time, it's a tough game to lose. And with that loss, they are now in last place in the Pro Division.
Yes.
Based on tiebreakers, the Ducks are currently in last place, having allowed 16 goals in 2 games. And the tiebreaker for us right now, besides head-on-head, is goals allowed. So the Ducks are currently in last place based upon that. And I think Andy was right. The Ducks, I like the Ducks. They're
now,
quality class
we talked
team.
about on the car ride
Absolutely.
over before, so it doesn't. So everybody's wondering what we're about to say when you say Andy's right about it. No, I haven't said this yet on the podcast.
Well, I think you alluded to it about the defense earlier. So I'm going to go back and go on and quantify this as well too. Basically, the Ducks in rec last season, they won the DCHL Rec Cup champions. They have tons of scoring. They have good goaltending. Their defense was good. But here's the difference between the Rec and Pro Division. I'm going to tell you right now. The difference between Rec and Pro Division is defense and goaltending. The Ducks have the offense to play in the Pro Division, but right now their defense is being exposed because they don't have the defense right now to win more than their share of games in the Pro Division. They got to do better on defense, and their defense liability is not showing up in the Pro Division. Like I said, when you play better competition, your weakness will be exposed. And right now, the Ducks' defense is being exposed right now because people taking advantage of that. And Sean's a good goaltender, but now Sean is facing tougher competition. So Sean is seeing shooters he's never seen before, and it's tough for Sean to be up there and have a superstar of every week out there. So.
And I'm gonna go even further, and I'm gonna give him a little credit, which is these past 2 times the Ducks have been his second game of the day. Mm-hmm. Now I know the Ducks have requested late games, but I think they really need to think this through because. Sean, right now, when he gets in there for that second game, he is dead tired.
I'm gonna screw with that. I think yes, he's tired, but half the Ducks team can't play until after 6 o'clock. So you want to have a goalie in half the team, or you want to have the full team and have a second goal. I would take the latter in this case. So it's understandable. And Sean's played. Sean's actually played pretty well, but again, combination of the defense, going against pro type offense, the Ducks defense, and the pro type shooters. Big difference. I think the Ducks are seeing now they can be competitive, offensively speaking, in the Pro Division, but they don't have the defense right now to be a top 4 or 5 team in the Pro Division right now, in my personal opinion. So a great win for Cobra Kai. Again, both teams didn't play great defense. Both teams' goaltender were exposed in terms of facing quality shots, quality shooters out there. But the winner goes to spoils, and by that virtual win, Cobra Kai is 2-0 and in first place in the Pro Division. Right. You heard it correctly. 2 new teams are in first place in their own division. Cobra Kai is #1 pro team right now as we speak, which is a great feat. And 5-Minute Major is in first place in the Rec East division.
So let's go down the standings, shall we?
Sure.
Now, we're going to start in the Pro Division. As we mentioned, Cobra Kai on top at 2-0. Mm-hmm. Then there is a log jam. We've got 3 teams on 2 points. We're going with the old system of 2 for a win, 1 for a draw here. Mm-hmm. It is the Funk Masters, by virtue of a complicated tiebreaker system, finding themselves in second place.
Not complicated because they beat the head on. They beat the player we're tied with, which is NWO.
No, Blue Breakers.
So it's head on head. They beat the head-on-head team they're tied for. So Funk Masters are clearly the number 2 team right now in the division.
So, and both those teams have allowed only 8 goals, which is why they're both up there.
Mm-hmm.
Now in fourth, we have the Evil Empire, who have scored 12 and allowed 12 and have 2 draws.
You know what? The most fortunate team in this division has to be the Evil Empires. They've had 2 bad ties, in my personal opinion.
Yes.
And they're still in the top 4 in the playoffs, so they have to be very lucky. Feel very lucky about themselves that despite the fact they haven't won games, they're in the top 4 right now.
Well, that's what happens when you're still a 500 team. You have to realize they've taken half the points.
Mm-hmm.
Now in 5 right now is the NWO.
Correct.
And this was after giving up 9 goals last week because the Ducks gave up 9 goals this week. The NWO were able to recover. They have 14 goals allowed. The Ducks have 16 goals allowed.
So by virtue of a tiebreaker, the Ducks are actually in last place. The NWO is in 5th place right now. But it wouldn't matter because both teams would not make the top 4 playoff cut right now as you speak out there. So,
exactly.
And now let's go to the Red Division, the East Division.
And we're going to start with the 5-minute majors, who have shown that right now Neil is carrying this team to a degree. I mean, they were a better team than the 2 Jacks in the first game, but tonight he basically stole them a point. There's no other way to put it. And that's why they are in first. And it should be noted, if Neil didn't steal them a point, we would have had 4 teams at 1-1, and it would have been hilarious.
Now, quick sidebar here. Andy,
why stop now?
We had 3 new teams. Obviously,
Correct.
2 Jacks, No Cook are clearly a rec team right now because they're all free agents, which I get that. But both the 5-minute major and Cobra Kai felt they were pro teams. If we had the season like we planned to over at St. Albans, with the pro and rec like we planned to, I had Cobra Kai as a pro team. I haven't seen them play yet. And 5-minute major as the first rec team. Maybe the 10th pro team, but most likely a rec team. Based on what you've seen so far in 2 weeks, Andy, our Cobra Kai a pro team?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think it's a no-brainer a pro team out there.
No
now, is 5-minute major a pro team?
That's difficult.
I think they're probably a rec team, a top rec team.
Yeah.
They don't have enough scoring. They don't have enough scoring to be a pro team, in my personal opinion. And their goaltending is great, but their defense and scoring may not be up to par as a pro team.
And that's really what's going down to. No, their defense is good. Their goaltending is good. They just don't have the offense to stick with the pros, and that's going to be the difference.
Well, their defense is good in rec. It's like the Ducks. Let's see how the defense will do against pro. I think if they play pro, the defense will be exposed more like the Ducks are being exposed right now. So I think their defense is good enough to be top team in rec, but I don't think it's good enough to be a top 4 or 5 team in pro. So I think we have a similarity in the Recs, in the Ducks, and the 5-minute major defense overall.
Right.
But right now they don't have enough scoring to be a pro team anyway. So I agree that the 5-minute major team probably is a top level rec team, not a top level pro team overall, or a bottom level pro team overall. Now to go back to standings out there. To go back to the standings we have overall, in this case is the fact that
the majors are in first with
place,
3 points in their division.
Second place.
Behind them we have the License to Deke in the.
I call them Triple D Plus.
Well, they don't know what their own name is. Why should we? They are at 1-1. They have allowed 10 goals so far.
Correct.
Which should not, which is. I don't know how that is, but I mean that's enough to put them ahead of the Scorpions, who have allowed 14 goals in their 2 games, also 1-1. Sorry. And then you have the Hard Luck Street Sharks, who have scored 5, allowed 6, and therefore 0-1-1. They're in 4th place.
Unfortunately, I think, but they'll be okay. On the west side, we've got the Burners
and the Scabs.
The Scabs in first again. Yes, the Burners are expected to be a top team, and they're playing well. They're probably the favorite to win the Rec Cup championship overall. The Scabs, the surprise team, they're 2-0. That were not going to be out there. So looking forward to that game between the Scabs and the Burners, and they're playing the same division is going to happen. So that should be a great game to come off there. In 3rd place is 2 Jacks No Coke over the Babylon Warriors based on tiebreaker, which is the goals allowed right now.
And right now that 12-6 game is still killing the Warriors.
Yeah, and that leads to our next section, which I tried to call the most surprising team and the most disappointing team overall this season.
Well, let's go with what's the most surprising. Who's surprising the most this week? Let's just focus on this week for a second.
Well, why don't you go ahead first? Let me think about it. You go ahead first, Andy.
Okay, this week, I would say the team that surprised me the most would be the NWO. This is a team that was down 4-1 after 2 periods, had every reason to fold.
Don't much scoring, but they scored 3 goals against a very tough team.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that one. since you chose the NW, I'm going to go with Buckmaster. They lost a tough game to a new team last week in the Cobra Kai. But when we realized the fact that it wasn't Buck that was bad, it was Cobra Kai was that good. So I think Buckmaster's coming in and playing a very good Blue Barracudas team and basically dominating them. To me, that was a surprise team. I didn't expect that to be that dominating.
Yeah.
So Funk to me was the surprise team this week, how well they played out there.
As far as disappointing team right now,
Go ahead.
I would normally say the Scorpions, but I think we're getting to the point now that playing against the Afterburners, you can't really be that disappointing.
Yes.
So instead, I think I'm going to go this time around with the Street Sharks.
Really? Okay.
Because the Street Sharks had 40 shots on goal. The Street Sharks had all the possession. The Street Sharks had every opportunity. But their shots were not that good. Their shots were, and I mean, Neil, tried to defer some of the credit when he talked about this. The shots were directly at him a lot of the time.
I think I disagree with the Sharks. I think Sharks are over 1-1. They could have easily won both games. It was a one-goal game. They lost both of them, if I recall correctly. 1-goal losses, so it's a bad break. Their record is worse than the team overall is. They'll be fine. I'm not worried about the Sharks at all. The team that I think, even though they have lost, and again, keep in mind the fact that the Scorpions and Warriors have played the Afterburners, so those losses are kind of over. I don't say over exemplified or over exaggerated because they've got blown out. But to me, the Warriors lost again today to the Triple Deeks, and to me, they're the most disappointing team. And those games weren't close. The Warriors had a lead. They fell apart second and third period. They don't have enough scoring right now, and they were beaten by a pretty sizable margin by a Triple Deeks team. That's not a superstar team, but it's a good team. So I think the Warriors probably are the most disappointing team that I've seen so far this week.
When you say sizable margin, though, it was 6-4. It's not really sizable.
Well, but it was 6-3 until they scored a load goal. They had given up 5 straight goals, and the second and third period, they were dominated in terms of scoring chances out there. So that's why I think the Warriors would be my disappointing team right now as you speak out there overall.
Well, right now, we still have a little bit of food left. I have no idea if we're going to wrap it up here. Yeah, we're getting the signal to wrap it up. This concludes week 2 of the DCHL review.
Thank you again for joining us, and we'll do it again next week out there. Week 3 action coming up next week overall. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I'm sure we're going to have tons of good games to go after as well, too. Thank you again for staying with us and as well. And keep in mind that this is week 2 of a 6-week season.
This is season 8.5, if you will.
Season 9. We're going to have, but don't forget the fact that in exactly 6 weeks from now, our biggest extravaganza, moving to a new venue, a larger venue, the Rockwell Sportsplex, April 7th. The spring season's going to start there. Bigger, better, more fun, more space. It would feel like you're playing in a rink that's 3 times as big as this, and it's playing at you at an NHL-sized rink indoors. So a lot more running and fun. And hopefully you'll be joining us for that in 6 weeks out there. But thank you again for your time. Thank you, Andy, for a great time as well, too.
I have a great time. It's 12:15 a.m. right now. For those of you who are wondering, we do spend basically all our lives doing this.
Yeah, pretty much. And look for the 2 feature games to be posted on YouTube hopefully the next couple of days out there with stats as well, too. Thank you again to all the referees for doing a good job. Everybody chipping in and helping out as well, too. And we will see you next week for week 3 action at DCHL.
We will see you in Tacoma. Say goodnight, Suds.
Take care.